So, first, Kainladen, the Lutamatter, remains in Ashar for a while and uses magic to rebuild. He ends up starting a business based around his pots and sells them all across Neath for many years to come. Yorinex the Black, no one really knows what happened to him. Somewhere between good and evil, but generally more on one side than the other. He skulks off to find a place more accepting of his abilities. Probably Marak, but not exactly sure. Dune and Bree also leave Ashar. Kainladen and Dune's relationship never quite worked, but they ended it on good terms and they spend their lives travelling near and far. Dune heading out to Shalku and Dukata, like just wanting to see the whole world. But as for the Six Eyes as a whole, they undergo a massive shift. They emerge from the sewers not as a shadowy thieves guild anymore, but as at least partly the saviours of the people of Ashar. They start an initiative to begin a new council and take charge of things for a while to help bring Ashar into a new age of freedom through democracy. And I guess rolling on from the Six Eyes, see if you want to give us your Abrashmina start.
Yeah. In the aftermath of Turian's destruction, Sharrat and the Six Eyes stepped up to fill the role of organizing part of the reconstruction, as they had the means and the method and the infrastructure. The citizens of Ashar trusting them far more than the city guard that fell apart during the assault and remained useless without the direction of the Moon Elves. The Six Eyes were the only bastion of order in the chaos that followed, and Abrashmina dedicated herself to aid in their purpose of reconstructing Ashar. Inadvertently, Sharrat finds himself in government once again as the new council form, and Abrashmina is offered a seat alongside him, but she turns it down at first, but finds herself drawn more and more into the running of the city as her advice is sought out, as both she and he who watches rise in favor with the city. He who watches and Baal worship take a rise in popularity, eventually he who watches becoming the patron deity of Ashar, having an avatar of his alive and able to perform miracles on a weekly basis, having a large part in his new popularity, uh, possibly taking on a new moniker once again, or the old come back round full circle as the contemplative king finds himself uh, performing miracles in Ashar once more. Her relationship with Eli continues to deepen. Eventually, the Golden Tiefling convinces her to marry him, and soon after, they give birth to a pair of twins, Sama and Hura, which mean grace and free, respectively. Abrashmina eventually outlives her love, and in her golden years, the now white-haired Asamar finds herself officially taking a seat in the council, almost becoming a de facto leader of it, as she is the last remaining virtue in Ashar at the time. She continues to live her life in peace, trying to lead by example and with compassion and the even-keeled prudence that had earned her the reputation of fairness. Throughout it all, Ramiel remains her constant companion during the quiet nights when Abrashmina finds herself seeking out the comfort of the night sky. It seems as though the trials she was meant to have faced have been completed, and she is left to live her life in peace in whatever manner she seems fit. She is still alive to this day and has never remarried, waiting patiently to be reunited with the man she loves once her time comes.
No. I'll give you
Very nice. Clap, clap, clap.
That's really good.
Thank you, thank you,
I'll
thank you.
give you a inspiration for campaign 3 for that. So, yeah, I really like.
If you have that written down somewhere, if you could send it to me and I could put it in notes, things. Thank you.
Of
Appreciated.
course, darling, I do. I did have a little bit of extra oomph in there, but the bones of it is
Not a worry.
saved.
Not a worry. And same to you, Jade, of course, if you have something.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
If not, I can try and write down what you say. That's fine. But I felt C had stuff. Thank you.
I
Right,
definitely
that sounds
had
like
the
school.
had the tenure of someone who wrote things down, didn't I?
Cheers.
You're welcome.
I'll continue then with some of the more, I guess, Makud-centric ones. Oba and Thela simply go back to running the Shalfadi. Oba is sore, and after the battles, his back's never quite the same. And they run the quiet little inn, the second best inn in town. And when Oba hangs up his axe behind the bar, he never takes it down again. Shal Abajana has an interesting trajectory. The once owner of the Vakar, suddenly stripped of his title as the concepts of shals and slaves are removed almost overnight from a shah. While, yes, he was a little put out at losing his title, he quickly takes to the New World, opening his house and his fighting pit to all those who wish to come. And though there are no more slave fights, he makes plenty of money running fights for between those who are willing. A statue to Makud, of course, now dominates the Vakar, acting something of a pilgrimage due to its rather enormous size. Bella and Edele leave Ashar together, wanting to put that place behind them. Edele shares her elven longevity with Abella, which is something full-blooded elves are able to do, meaning that her lifespan is shortened, but Abella's is lengthened, so the two may live together for a very long time, though not as long as Abella would have lived, or Edele would have lived on her own. They do return regularly to come see Makud and their friends while they can, but for the most part they enjoy a quiet life in Ishkale. And I guess with that one we'll go for Makud. I have all the NPCs as well if you want them, like written out, so you don't have to type them down.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
I have been so far,
whatever
but
you
right. Just gonna rattle through this a little bit. So Makud helps rebuild Ashar. Being ridiculously strong helps when erecting or smashing things. And I think his hammer becomes known. Oh, this is the first sort of act of his hammer being known to create rather than always destroy. And so the tool becomes this kind of dual purpose, as he is very visible in the rebuilding of, large structures and things throughout the city. Also, backed up by the Enthris elemental, they make short work of anything that they need to do. He would take a part in rebuilding the Vakar, particularly. Maybe even that erecting of that statue you mentioned. But more public acts of or feats of strength. And the fact that he has like 29 strength now. I don't know exactly how that is in like human terms, but exponentially stronger than
It's way less than
people,
Dwayne
probably.
Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Like,
He is a demigod.
Yeah.
He is Maui, so.
Yeah.
So from this, new council and rebuilt city, and somewhat at Makud's behest, perhaps there is a stronger intermingling of those who lived out in the desert, the Mardu and the Suvma and the Medigen and the Hobgoblins and the like, come to the city to aid it, even after centuries of mistreatment and distrust. Perhaps all of the virtues are able to bridge that gap in uniting these disparate people. And it builds bridges, helps establish new order. Maybe on this new council there are members of Medigen or Hobgoblin or Suvma or Mardu or something, or at least one honorary member between them all.
I think so, because I didn't mention it in my epilogue, because I kind of thought Rob was, but whenever we were talking about what the council was going to be, since Ebrishmina was going to be on it, they talked about sort of basing it off of the Biokan council, Whaling Council, where they have like representatives of each like section of government and stuff, so that would make sense.
There's a foreign affairs minister or something. If Makud was ever offered to be on the council, I think like he would, accept some sort of honorary position and then probably like never turn up or never be there for more than 5 minutes or something, and they'll find someone who's more appropriate.
The ceremonial gavel.
Yes, he does. It's currently outside being beaten into some monster's head, but it will be back soon. Another hammer. I will actually put that in brackets.
I thought you were going to say, I actually put that in his inventory.
Yeah.
Ceremonial gavel.
Okay, and right, let's just copy that. Right. So parts of the city are rebuilt in mind with others, and I was envisaging, like larger doorways for the Mardu, or like ceiling conversions or openings and stuff for the Suvma that maybe come to roost in the upper levels of houses and buildings and stuff. And though they don't abandon their old ways entirely, they just mingle more. So there is, a small permanent population of most of these different factions and peoples in the city. I don't know if I've left it kind of open. I know there was the discussion that Bryn might travel with Makud, and Makud certainly is up for traveling, and them heading home and her telling his story and that kind of thing. I don't know. You can confirm or deny, Jade, when it gets to you, I guess. But I don't know if we have any further adventures. But I just kind of put a note that, the virtues as virtues might do some more stuff at some point. This might not be.
I imagine they have one adventure.
Okay.
She did promise him a winter wolf.
Excellent.
I love you guys.
Mina is, of course, welcome to come get a very stylish winter wolf pelt out of it.
The fact that she hated how cold it was up there, it would take a lot of convincing. But maybe her kids would go with you.
Possibly.
Sama and Hura. They might go with you.
Maybe it's like a regular hunt they go on.
Ooh. Yeah, if it's like something you guys do on the reg, she would definitely come to a few of them, and like the kiddos would definitely, whenever they got older, accompany you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna put down like regular hunts or reunions, and
God, Maku would be the best uncle.
So now we know what our Christmas one shot is going to be this year.
probably
Okay.
maybe in
Sure.
person. Everyone bring their winter wolf pelts.
We could do that.
So
Find a way to make a winter wolf fight level 20s, but
so I presume we had some adventures or something happens, but at some point, all of this adventuring for Makud, he will end up traveling and he will go about the 14 endeavors of Makud / Amar Utu, the Sun Bull, and that matches the number of Minotaur tribes, and he will fight and travel all over, performing great deeds like the labors of Hercules, and maybe hunting down some more evil dragons or other monsters, or building something, founding something else, helping people who need it, that kind of thing, and spread his name so, and possibly including the fighting of aberrations in the desert, or at least the holding back of that, and clearing out of the desert of these aberrations allows him to establish what there's two different names, and I haven't decided on which one, but I'm going to just put them in the chat. But he basically built himself, or at least his people, like a sister city to Ashar, either called Kalba, his tribe home, or maybe Kalmatu. And it's a grand city for all the desert people, with the dwarfs' help, and Damaro and Kalfi, the smith, possibly like building an undercity or an under outpost at least, and cart connections. They create this city with this huge architecture, like lifted by Makud himself, which mimics the Cyclopean wall / architecture of the ancient Greeks. And there's probably some dragon bones incorporated into it, because there's quite a few of those around.
fuck yeah.
And he takes shards of glass from the glass fields, because it's built close by, to put into large buildings in their natural state. So if you imagine like stained glass windows, but made out of these sort of shards of glass that have been made to fit these kind of like shattered effect stained glass windows. And he brings water to the desert via Anim, the Naiad, and the mer people there, and food via via Abrea and any other druids he can maybe get his hands on. And through these endeavors, so he will, expand his presence out of Ashar and bring more worship to his cause, but also people to his city. And you had the statue becoming religiously significant. I made a little note that like they might have used to at the Vakar sell like little idols of Makud, from like the Hercules movie where you squeeze it in the arms flexed or something. But basically like that, but more religiously significant or something. But there'll be like little Makud merchandise that spreads out there and becomes more important. And through all these acts and like forging them a home and other things like that, he will, and all these endeavors, he will become the great, or finish to an extent, his ascension to great ancestor of the Mardu, and to others, the god of strength, endurance, protection, feasting, saving the world, killing stuff, smashing dragons, eating lizards on sticks, other things.
Fuck yeah.
The list goes on. So after several decades of doing good Makut things, as I've put down here, probably like 50 years at most, he will wander into the desert and never be seen of again. And he will be connected to the Mardu and those that worship him, paladins and clerics and ancestral barbarians and others who are spiritually connected, who follow their own endeavors. And perhaps he returns when they need him most, or spiritually aiding them through, the guise of sand and other things. And they say he resides in the misty place, as all ancestors do, somewhere only Mardu innately know how to get to, and those guided by them. And that's it.
It's fucking awesome.
I have a character that became a god.
Dude, I love the desert city. That's really cool. I mean, it's all really
Cheers.
cool, but that was a particularly exciting thing.
I imagine it's somewhere close to like Nahasira. Not necessarily close enough to irritate her or whatever, but that kind of region overlooked with the glass sea and things. So maybe she helps or visits or something. I don't entirely know how she feels about all the dragon bones, but there are evil dragons in Makud's mind, at least.
I think like maybe like halfway between or something. Oh, fuck! Now I gotta go to the goddamn map.
Yay!
But like that of inspiration for you too.
Yay!
So when you fail your death saves and when I put you up against a giant snake in the first fucking session or whatever, then you'll have an inspiration or whatever. Anyway, the last three sort of NPC groups, Smear, Shugor, and Tolox. Smear continues his work at the Mirage, as does Shugor, who and both just kind of, run that place. Tolox, however, on the back of his association with the Virtues, managed to regain his position at the halls, restart his education, and end up going on to become a bona fide wizard. Thanks to you guys.
That's nice.
Yeah. Nahasira and Deontay go home and slumber for a very long time. They spend some time in Ashar, hanging around with you guys as well every now and then, but they focus their legacy on ensuring that the dragon event never happens again. And so spend their time kind of making sure that dragons are, kept in check. Declan, I suppose, I'll do, goes back to Dethoin to confront the sort of difficult relationship he had with the people there, bringing his I don't want to say sister because they're kind of romantic, but sort of sister. That girl he likes.
It's like a step sibling or something.
Yeah. Well, he's adopted, but
right.
wasn't he was always knew he was adopted. So they're not related, but they grew up in a sort of brother sister type fashion. But yeah, he goes back to sort of confront that, having dealt with the preacher and saved his sister, and ends up like training her to fight and that sort of thing. Continue that, and probably ends up becoming some kind of gruff detective, private investigator type situation. And then Shay and the Quarry, which obviously Jade has moron to say, I'm sure, but they go and look for a place to call their own. Few people actually know where the mysterious metal people end up. Some say it's in the mountains south of Calland, but no one really knows, unless they know, I guess. But on that note, Jade, if you want to take over.
All right. So I guess Bryn would stay around for just a little bit to kind of, help with the rebuilding of Ashar. But eventually, as things kind of settled in, she would get restless. And at Shay's behest, she goes with her and the quarry to help settle their people. She keeps her promise to her mother and takes her and Holly back to the location where she buried her father and the remains of the rest of the members of their traveling troupe. She continues to travel around looking for other wayward quarry spirits that may, lie dormant in other people, and then bringing those people back to the community that the quarry are building. Travels with Makud occasionally, going to Callan to find winter wolves, and traveling around, spreading the story of what happened in Ashar, and the legends of her people. Eventually, word reaches her that her mother is in failing health, and she returns to the Mirage to retire there and help run the Mirage, and play there until her mother finally passes away. Again, she keeps her second promise to her mother and returns her mother's remains to be buried next to her father. She continues to stay at the Mirage under the guise that she is keeping an eye on Holly. And that's where she spends the rest of her days, with Madar, just playing at the Mirage. Occasionally she gets restless and she'll go play the various taverns around Shar, or go to Callan for a few months to spend time with her people. Yeah, that's what Bryn does.
I love it. I think it's a lot less sort of emotionally brutalizing than the end of the last campaign, but I think this is like one of the true kind of happily ever after sort of ones. So I really like closing it off this way, with everyone kind of taking their own paths, and those paths kind of leading them away from each other a little bit, but never for good, never forever, and always end up coming back together to enjoy each other for however long you have left. So I think, with that we'll go ahead and close out the big old campaign.
I knew you were muted because of emotions. Oh,
It's emotional for sure. I'm definitely it's a weird feeling.
I love how they all end up essentially founding cities to some degree.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The symmetry was I'm watching this unfold, and I'm just like, okay, I know Bryn's going to help settle the quarry and build that community. Okay, there's Abershmina doing the same with Shar, which I kind of knew was happening.
Yeah. I mean, that one just kind of made sense, I think, the most, because for me, I I was having like a really hard time thinking of what Abrashmina would make her next project, because she's very much a goal-driven individual. And so she would need a goal, and so like, rebuilding Ashar is like one of those. It's a goal that won't end, because the city she loves can always be better. So it just kind of made sense after talking to Rob a bit, because he's just like, well, does she work with the Six Eyes? And I was like, well, I mean, I can see her doing that because of Eli. And then like we started talking about what Sherratt would get up to, because being a council member, he was probably going to be finding himself in that kind of leadership position again. And it kind of went from there.
Yeah.
I kind of always had this headcanon that I'm not sure if it's necessarily the city that we went to with the animal-headed mages and things, but I always thought that like the Mardu way back when actually had like a great city or a great nation, empire, or whatever, and it all crumbled into dust and the sand, and have been scattered for a very long time. And I wanted them. They worship just ancestors in general, and I thought if they were going to now worship or respect or pay homage to one figure, I wanted him to build them a home, the home that they had before, for them to return to.
A promised land.
The promised land. And Makud is hella strong, and I just imagined him picking up huge boulders and stuff, like building whole segments of wall or whole segments of a giant temple or something in one go. And how quickly that would actually make it happen.
It's sort of a cross between his like Pillar of Enthris hammer Igmudi's maul thing, and B, that one Norse story where Loki fucks the horse with the giant builder who makes the wall. That's kind of what I'm thinking without the
If I have a vote in the name of the city, I like Kalmatu.
I do too.
Oh.
I like them both, but
yeah, I like them both, but
I like the sort of the R2 sound from Amar Utu being in there.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and the Mardu, it reminds me of that. So it sounds like it incorporates, both Amar Utu and the Mardu in one word, kind of. I like it.
Yeah, I can't. So like the Kel is the tribe bit, and then I think I did some research, quite a few weeks ago, and there was something about the Ba, and I think also something about the Matu, like two different kind of languages had that for home as. So those are my two options that I hadn't decided, but Kalmatu works.
I was also very proud of myself for incorporating the virtue that Jade assigned to Abrashmina in my recap.
So the virtue of being the best.
No, prudence, I think, is what we decided Abrashmina was.
Yeah.
And I think Bryn was temperance, right?
And Makud is being hella strong.
I can't remember because there was two and we couldn't figure out which one was Declan and which one was Bryn, and it was great because they flipped back and forth all the damn time.
Yeah, it was one of those things where if you asked Bryn, she would say one, and ask her what she thought Declan was, she would say the other. And then if you asked Declan the same thing, he would say it the exact same way, like, "Oh, I'm this and she's that."
You sure you weren't temperance?
I might have been temperance, and if I was, I'm going to be sad because I did the wrong one.
I think you might have been temperance.
Oh, dang.
I mean, prudence applies to Abrashmina pretty heavily as well.
Yeah. Oh, I think prudence was supposed to be. Yeah, because it was like prudence and justice was like the ones for Declan and you're right, Declan and Bryn. One would say they were prudence. The other would say that they're just. And justice. McCube was fortitude.
Yeah.
Yay.